Seated. I know y'all heard that. Not everybody talks as loud as I do. Y'all hear me all right in the back? Stop. You sure? Yes. All right. Yes. Turn my hearing aids up. I got it. And I want to welcome everybody to our 12th annual Spring Awards Banquet. And I got to say, I think global warming is real because this is the warmest one I think we've had so far. We've had a snow at one of these in the past, but we're going to have a really good time tonight. This is one of our more special events, I do believe. We have so many wonderful people in the audience, in the room, so many great alumni, and I know we're going to have a good time. It ain't easy coming out to these type of events. Everybody's got a whole lot of things to do. We do have a couple of elected folks in the house tonight. I know I saw Sheriff Carl Leonard from Chesterfield. Y'all been following the newspaper. Sheriff Leonard has opened the latest, greatest jail recovery-oriented system of care. I don't want to call it treatment. It's recovery. We appreciate that, and we look forward to wonderful things in the future. And just to give you an idea of what your program will look like a year from now, we got some men up front here that came to our Banquet program. Y'all stand up just for a minute. This is our Banquet. Evan could have stood, but he got out before the program started. We also have Commonwealth Attorney John Mahoney in the back from Caroline County. John, stand up and let's us recognize you. Thank you so much for coming down. John, we have a referral program up in Carolina. Some of y'all have been following for years, and it's going pretty good. John, come along. We're going to make some positive changes up here. I hear they're already good, so we're glad you come down and see one of the things we do, and we look forward to bigger things. Now, I have to add this, too, that all the programs we do, Caroline County, where's my Caroline County folks? Stand up, Frank, and all you folks in Carolina. But what y'all sit down there, what's so special about Caroline? That's the first community ever that I know of in Virginia that actually reimburses the McShin Foundation some of the costs to run that program. That's huge. And we got a raise this year, which we appreciate, and Frank said he will personally see to it y'all get 10 times the amount of money, so thank you very much for that. We, former delegate Chris Saxman in the house, is that what we're doing? Oh, the Attorney General in the house. I was getting to that. You start small, you work your way up. Yeah, so Attorney General from the state of Virginia, Mark Henry's in the house. The hearing aids don't go for member law. But it's written down right here. I'm coming down the line. We do have a former delegate, Chris Saxon. Thank you for showing up tonight. I'm not taking any other elected folks. I think I got them all. And we got so many wonderful people here from so many different organizations. But before we get too far into things, this night would not be possible without, we had a really major sponsor. They've helped us a couple years in a row. And I don't mean to embarrass nobody, but seriously, how many people did pay for the seat you're sitting in? Raise your hand. Now, if you'll notice, a lot of the hands don't go up. And the reason we're able to fill the house called the American Addiction Center, Kyle Donnelly in the back with the green shirt on. The boss said, don't worry about it. We're going to cover the cost, whatever you need to make this banquet happen. And American Addiction Center, they the major sponsor of this event. We thank you for doing that, Kyle. I will say this too, while you're in the house. If anybody here knows anybody ever needs to go to rehab, you got insurance, why not see Kyle, because he's a miracle man. That man gets up at 3 in the morning, drives an hour away, picks up a blind, blackout, drunk guy, and takes him to an airport 2 hours away, and gets on the plane with them, sees what they get when they got together. That's how committed that guy. Kyle's also been in rehab, 22 times or so? 17. So he knows what he's doing, man. I mean, he can get the job done. So, anyways, Clean Life Articles and Dr. Jimmy Hill. Yeah, Clean Life Articles. If you ever need to get off drugs and not get on these other drugs, you see Dr. Jimmy. He can make it happen. So, we have a couple of doctors in the house. You brought a friend with you from Williamsburg, Clay. Dr. Janet Lee. From the Carlson. Hasn't got sued yet because he brings his doctor with him. Dr. Gay. Riverside Comprehensive, this table right here. Well, I send you people up from it. We appreciate it. Tell Jim and thank you for the sponsorship tonight. But thank you very much. The food you're going to eat comes from Bert Ruger. They own the City Diner, the Village, the Grill, Supper, Dinner, Starlight. So if you're ever out and about town, eat those restaurants, happily pay the bill, give a big tip. Because her, for 10 years, he's been donating food to this banquet. So he's another big reason we can feed so many people. He does it year round. Whenever we need food, we call her. But being in the restaurant business, that's a high addiction industry. So whenever he needs help, he calls me. That's how we call cricket. Alan Harris with Old Dominion Papers. Alan probably not here, but he donates a lot to us year round with our paper products, and we appreciate that. One thing I want to say, you good? A friend of mine, I go all over the country and the world sometimes. You're getting ready to be part of something really cool. A friend of mine, Steve Dixon, he's opened up a recovery center called Recovery Central in Birmingham, England. He went to a lot of trouble, him and his people, his staff, and they put together over, I think, 1 million pounds, which is more dollars than, I think it's more pounds than dollars if I'm not mistaken. Last time I went there, it cost me $1,000. And Stephen and his team over at Changes, it's called Changes UK, and they're getting ready to launch this new recovery center in a couple of weeks. And, I just want Steve Dixon and his crew to know how much over here in America we appreciate all they're doing over there to help the recovering people. UK, England, they're on fire for recovery. So I'm going to shoot this little video, this little applause we're getting ready to give. So let's give a great big standing ovation for Stevie D and the UK. He's opening up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All over the free world, they want what we got. And by God, they get it. What I want to do before we go into the pledge of allegiance and the prayer, this past year, one of our board members passed away suddenly. Wayne Blanks, one of our founding board members, had a heart attack and died instantly. And he was with us for 11 years. And man, this guy was a soul. He had 22, 23 years clean. I sponsored him the whole time. And you don't find a better man than Wayne. He was the past chairman of the board of RBHA, Richmond Behavioral Health Authority, a true stalwart in our community. And I kind of want to, during this banquet of ours, I want Wayne's spirit to show up and guide us for the rest of the night. I just want to show a couple slides of Wayne while we're doing this. Moment, so I'll hit it. It's all Wayne was a big UVA fan, and he'd have been all over that this year's basketball, I'm sure. We're going to do good old pledge allegiance and a prayer. I guess we do the prayer first and the pledge allegiance. Reverend is our preacher over Hatchet at Memorial Baptist Church in Lakeside. If you ever want to come to just an awesome, good old Baptist service, here's your man right here. You feel a little weak in the Jesus department, you be sure you see him. You got a hot line to him, but Reverend.
Let me just say on behalf of the congregation at Hatchet Church, we are so blessed to be in partnership with McShin, and it is changing our congregation. We love them very much. We love you guys so much and are so glad that we can just be with you. So how about if we just bow our heads and Holy God, we come to you tonight, and we come to you with hearts of such gratitude. We come to you with hearts overflowing with thankfulness for how you work in our lives. And Lord, as we give thanks to you tonight, we ask you to bless this event. We ask you, Father, to continue working in the lives of those that are walking that recovery and walking it step by step. We ask you to strengthen them. We ask you, Father, to encourage their hearts. We ask you, Lord, to speak into their lives and let them know how much they are loved. For surely, Father, you love us so much. And we thank you for that, Father. So please bless this evening. Thank you for all of the achievements, all of the milestones that have been achieved and will be achieved in the days to come. This victory we claim under the banner of Christ Jesus, and we pray in his name. Amen.
I also want to point out, we've had a lot of good press lately for recovery. Not the disease, but the recovery piece. And a lot of people stepping up out of the shadow and chasing some recovery because of what they're seeing. Videos, press, and whatnot. Tracy Sears was here earlier with Channel 12. She may be in and out. But one writer with the Time Dispatch, I think does a fabulous job writing about recovery, John Ramsey. And he took time out with his family to come here. He's sitting in the back of the room quietly, stealth-like, writing. Raise your hand, guys. I'm going to give a little call to that. If you really like what you're reading in the Time Dispatch, could you give him a little better applause than that? Because he really deserves it better. Now that we all know what you look like. Let's see, Mr. Mahoney, we got another Marine in the house. Any Marines in the house? Just me and John. Come on, John. Come on up. John will lead us. You do it for him. All right, he will lead us to the pledge of allegiance.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, y'all doing good so far. Now, I want to thank the War Memorial for having us in here. You notice we're in a sacred room. These are all members from Virginia, citizens who died in our conflict. Our current one going on over in Afghanistan and Iraq and elsewhere. So these are the Virginia boys. Before we go eat, our new chairman of the board, John Finn, is going to work his way up here, and we'll do it from there.
If I'd like him, I'll just say.
Okay.
Hi, I'm John Finn. I'm the new chairman of the board of directors. Will you tell the difference between the two of us? I'm the quiet one. John says stuff. It is such an honor to have an opportunity to serve with this distinguished board of directors at the McShin Foundation. I am so brand new, I haven't done a board meeting yet. But I've been around the foundation for years, and I understand the tremendous work that they do. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening and supporting us in our efforts to save lives and heal families. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Now we're just going to roll out and eat. We'll start with the head table. And we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. The 2 sides. Everybody can get out and get back all in about 15, 20 minutes, and we'll start our program. It goes quicker than you think. So head table, y'all distinguished one, you get to go first. Glad to see you. We got nothing but 10 folks at this stage.
Johnny's always asking. Randy.
I can go left and right at this point. Going for fast. No, there's a bad boy over there. We're gonna go with this. What?
We have family members.
These are mothers, man. This is the mother family.
We have a mother.
That's true, but
Oh.
we got more mothers over here. And father. See, Miss Brooks, y'all stand over here. Bad thing. It goes fast. There's plenty of food. It ain't going nowhere.
Pretty much, yeah. Oh, yeah. What year?
I'll just hold it up.
Actually, I kind of started a little deal between Herb and Jim, so I Absolutely. Finally figured out the best way to get along with Herb is to keep a mind of him that we have a document. Yep. He worked with him one day and he said, "It's not bad at all." He's talking about it. 2 days later, he's like, I think it's just convenience. It's complacency. He actually does a lot of recording and a lot of paperwork type stuff that Mark would never do. That wouldn't have happened. And Jim does a lot of sizing and
I only did it for one.
sizing up.
But yeah, I mean, it's awesome. But I tried it out for a few years. Oh, right, like,
You're a celebrity. You should be.
I met John.
You are dead.
Jimmy was there. So, John invited me to come. So that's yeah, so we drove here.
Been to the trouble too.
I didn't say you were say another last.
Video got me crazy. Oh, here we go. Now it's getting good.
Smiling.
Look at Ben Jack. He's reading. Where's it? You keep calling for it. Kara? You think my father's in my house waiting on me? He was here a couple months ago.
Yeah, I saw them. I'm on Team Lori anyway.
I don't know how long you've been there. How long have you been Let me ask one stuff. Where you from?
I don't know yet. I don't know. A little bit.
I'm sorry. They had to go to the drop it. I'm like, what?
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
How are you all? I'm hanging. Good weather.
I saw some of those out there smoking cigarettes. I said, man, I wish I smoked cigarettes nicer than it is outside.
That's right.
You know, my wife's dead. He could eat a whole lot. I don't know, it's just kind of embarrassing. You're supposed to pile it up. That's right. He's out.
How y'all doing?
Oh, Mark. Bless you, man.
Food ain't good.
John, where's the bar?
Your good is real good. I coach. Yeah, he does a good job.
I've started our conversation. And I'm going to call I've been thinking about that song.
That time, that one, the girl over there now. She's got a crossbar. She's got a bowl of drugs. And low on us. But you got to take care of their parents like that. So we got a little segue. But my thought was when we go next, I want to buy several houses with them. So the rent they pay is part of the operation. And I think that's the best thing
Alright, so how's there so far? Good? Is that it? Only one happy guy? Man, y'all better hope y'all stay clean, man. Anyways, we got a lot to do in a short period of time. We're going to stay moving. Once again, welcome back. I hope everybody got plenty. We got plenty. If you need more, quietly work your way to the back. But since we got started, we did have another member of the House of Delegates show up. Thank God he came late, didn't come early, man. You don't want him on the front of the buffet, but not back, be in the back, man. See what I'm talking about? Lamont is a true champion of recovery, by the way, so that man gonna carry a lot of weight for us down in the General Assembly. So we're glad you're here, Lamont. Thank you so much for what you've done for us so far. We appreciate it. I want to take a minute to thank Chick Jordan. He's one of our board members, but he's also a caterer. And his catering company, Jordan and Adam, we appreciate you putting all this together, Chick. First cookies, they make it look real good. I do want to thank our board of directors for coming out. You'll see them a little bit later on, but if my board members would please just stand up for a minute so we can see who you are. And I'd like to point out the board members, because sometimes I get a complaint, so just take it to a board member. Thank you. all probably be outside working, but any staff in here, please stand up and be recognized. Cricket. Some of y'all will notice at each table is one of our annual reports. We save money, so I just put one at each table. If you get them and you flip through it. But you'll notice toward the back, we have 20 peer leaders working with, over 20. We're probably the largest recovery community organization in Virginia, and maybe, I don't know who's got 20 peer staff working for them, who's a larger peer-driven organization than McShin. So we're very proud of that. Don't get excited if you don't pay a lot of money. It's all entry level. But most of our people go on to get bigger, better jobs pretty quick. And I tell our peers all the time, look, just go do your job. People are watching you. You're auditioning for your next job in life, whether you know it or not. And it's working out pretty good for us so far. Anyway, typically when we get a speaker for these events, every year we rotate, we get a Democrat and Republican. That we really do, we're fair and balanced, we try to get elected officials, and usually, an election year they line up, they fight for the spot. This year as I started making some calls, it dawned on me, we got a lot of talent from within. Maybe this is the year we get something different. And I had a little different thing in mind, but the way it worked out, our speaker tonight is somebody, he's a VMI graduate. He's also a felon, but he got his rights restored. And he got his gun rights back. All before the government was giving it away. The guy earned it back, old-fashioned way. And, but more so than that, when I first met the guy, I said to myself, he's as good as dead, I will never see him again. And this is my exact thought. And I do that, even to this day, so many years clean. And he came back, and we rode to a meeting in Charlottesville. He probably forgets this. But the first time I took him to a meeting, it was in Charlottesville. Richard was celebrating 30 years. In my van, the needle was broken. It was going empty the whole time. And all he kept looking at was the gas gauge. I knew I had a gas. I didn't tell him that. I said, look, man, I run on God around here. You got to get God. You're like, God, never let me down, man. So the whole time we're around the Charlottesville, he worried about running out of gas. I said, God got this. Don't worry, man. And we got there in the back on E. And then after a while, I asked him, I said, look, I'm starting McShin. I need somebody to help me raise money. Would you like a job? He had a job. He was making like 25 grand a year. I said, the job I want to give you may not pay that much, and you got to earn the money. Because part of the way we're going to make money is going to contracting business, and paint houses and dig ditches to fund McShin. And he looked at me with that little VMI handle, look like little puppet, twisted head. He wasn't quite sure. He wasn't comprehending the part about less money, plus I got to work for it. But I think you're getting ready to hear testimony of how valuable authentic peer recovery support services are. And when we started McShin, we started in a 56 square foot office in Scott's Addition on top of Rubicon Treatment Center. And we're now in a 15,000 square foot building. We started, the first phone we got, one of my sponsors bought the phone. Our last calendar year, we went over $1.2 million in revenues. And we couldn't have gotten it without the speaker you're getting ready to hear. And Mark Holmberg ran an article on us in 2004 or 5. I think 2004, me, Daniel, and that little guy in the middle, Ty. So here we are, 12 years later, 11 years later. I'm never going to attain. I'm always going to be a work in progress. That's my life. Daniel was one of the most successful businessmen I've ever met. And Ty he's a doctor, he's a physician down in Norfolk. So, 3 addicts got their picture in the paper 12 years ago. We're still here clean, voting and all kinds of cool stuff. But I ain't going to tell the story. Let's give a warm welcome to Daniel Payne.
All right, good evening. he said was true. You messed with my ego. I was making more than $25,000 a year. You know, my name is Daniel Payne, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is that I haven't had a need, a desire, or, you know, any kind of want to put any type of chemical in my body that would change the way that I thought or the way that I felt since September 9, 2002. And you're applauding the recovery community when you do that. You know, tonight I'm real nervous, and I talk in other meetings all the time. I probably run my mouth too much. But I realize tonight it has nothing to do with me. I've got to represent the recovery community in a way that could be an impression upon everybody in here about how successful it is to be in recovery. You know, my story is not about my successes, but it's really about the successes of the recovery community in my life. And I have kind of come into this belief that it can happen to any of us. It's not limited to me. It's for us all. Many of us in this room know exactly what I'm talking about. There is a sort of music within this group, within us. It's not lyrics, it's a sound. We see it, we feel it, and we hear it when we're within the presence of others that are in recovery. And I don't say this to be an elitist and exclude everybody else. I'm not going to tell you what station it is. It's a real thing. It's mind-boggling. I cannot put my finger on it. I cannot put it in a jar and give it to you. But it works, it's real, and it's exciting. And as a result of that day, and I say it's a day of infamy in my life, September 9, 2002, my life changed forever. It was the greatest day of my life. Better than graduating from VMI, better than the birth of all three of my beautiful children. Not better than the day I got married because she's sitting right there. But I've got a beautiful wife, a wonderful, wonderful friend as a result of recovery, period. Plain and simple. I'm not going to shortchange my parents. They did a pretty good job, you know. But at the end of the day, the principle that I've learned within this organization, within this fellowship, within this way of living, has designed my life to one that has just been an enormous amount of fun. You know, it's real. I saw a line in the paper the other day that our illness is fueled by no end in sight. And I have to disagree with that. We are the end. You know, us in this room, we're the end in sight. And we've got to. Recovery has completely altered my family tree. You know, it really has. It's changed the way in which, I don't know if a branch has grown or it's broken, but it really has. It's really changed the way in which, you know, hope and pray, the way in which our family will be, you know, recognized from here on out. You know, we have a lineage, unfortunately, if I look in the past, that may have, you know, a good bit of a disease of addiction aligned with it. But due to recovery and the folks in this room, it's changed. When I look at my children, and they look at me, they don't see what I used to see in my father, you know? They look at me with a lot of love, and zero fear, you know? And they're so special to me, and they would not be able to see that without this wonderful group of folks. We were leaving tonight, and our 2-year-old had us, and I got an 8, a 9, and a 2-year-old, and someday I feel like I have 2 more in the house. And they're all boys, you know? But I look at my wife, and I'm like, how do we stop time and enjoy this, you know? Something I learned in this room, you know, just live in the moment. You know, they have never seen me, you know, unable to be their father or to be a husband. And it's pretty heavy, because unfortunately there were certain circumstances that I was exposed to where, you know, being a child was tough. And it's all because of you. It's all because of the recovering community and the peers that I met when I walked into this place, this world, 13 and a half years ago. And it's fascinating. You know, John asked me to get up here and tell my story. And normally when we tell our story, we tell what happened before we got here. And I was like, I am not doing that. The Attorney General in this room. I'm not going to go into detail. You know, I appreciate that everybody knows I'm a felon. You know. But my story is like anybody else's. It's like what we read in the paper. You know, unfortunately, there are also good stories we read. But there's a lot of stories out there that aren't told that are like mine. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them. You know, I'm merely just a pawn in this game, man. I don't feel like I'm anybody. I'm just a representation, I hope, a good one, of what we can be, and I'm not even there yet, from what they tell me. I try to live a grateful life, you know, and I do my best, and that was taught to me by you folks, and I can't thank you enough. I had notes up here, and I thought, man, I'm all nervous, you know, because I don't really get nervous a whole lot, but I think I'm nervous because I really feel like I've got to be able to relate it to how important this is. And, you know, when I was a child, it wasn't my wish or desire to become, you know, a person in active alcoholism and drug addiction. It wasn't my wish, it wasn't my desire, it wasn't what I set out to be. I'm not an alcoholic or an addict because I come from a blue-collar family. You know, because the first girl I asked out said no, because I got my feelings hurt, because I felt like I was wronged by law enforcement. I am this way because I have a disease and illness, as I like to see it. And we have the treatment for that illness within us as a people, as a society, as a group. And we have got to harness that and use it to help as many as we can. And a lot of days I go to bed wishing I could help one more person. I don't say that I go out in the world and, you know, tell people what's what and what's that, but I feel like I, myself, have got to do more. And I'm excited that we're on this, we're like at the tip of the spearhead. You know, we're at this point in our society where the earth, the planet, they need us, you know. And it's very, it can be very scary with some of the things that we see, feel, and hear. But I know in my heart of hearts that it works. Because I know me, before I got here, I was hopeless. Completely hopeless. I did not know how to live a life of success without the use of drugs and alcohol. Today, I cannot imagine my life with those chemicals in it. And that, to me, is fascinating. You know, I'm not supposed to be up here. But I'm very grateful. I'm not going to run on a lot. I listen to a lot of people on my podcast, and there was a lady, and she's a speaker in one of the fellowships that I attend, and she had a remarkable little section, and that's really stuck with me. You know, I'm thinking I'll drop back a little bit and just think and tell you how important the recovery community is in my life before I close with this little thing. You know, when I got here, you were here. You know, when I celebrated a year, you were here. When I got married, you were in my wedding. You know, when my grandfather passed away and my dog passed away, you called, you showed up. You know, when we had our first child, you were there. When my wife lost her little brother, you were there. You would not leave. And that was special, you know. And second child, you were there. Third child, you were there. We have a fourth. I don't know if I will be there. I'm like, man, crazy. But you're always there, man. And I think that's the key ingredient to success and recovery, is being surrounded by our peers, by the people that we love, you know, by that music that we hear. You know, that's what does it. I didn't get it from law enforcement. I didn't get it from treatment. I didn't get it from a doctor. I got it from you. Every bit of it. And she was talking, and I was really thinking, I was like, well, how can I say this and act like it's mine? You know? I read it, and you know, I'm going to paraphrase here, but she was quoting a doctor. His name was Dr. William James, and he wrote a manuscript, I think at the turn of the century, and I did some research. He was the first psychologist to teach in America. He brought psychology to America. He wrote this manuscript that was called The Varieties of Religious Experience. And he drew a conclusion. And I think the first sentence is his. The rest of it I just kind of threw in there. If it's really good, I appreciate it. He said the most important thing that has ever happened on this planet is the appearance of enlightened people. Spiritually awake people. Spiritually conscious people. There have been very few. So how many of us in this very room, think about all of us who have stumbled into that design of living, into that spiritually conscious, awake way of living, where we see the day and what we can do with it, and how wonderful that is. And how we have the ability, what is the slogan? Saving lives, saving families. Yeah, it's fascinating. We have stumbled into a program and an organization and a foundation, like we are here tonight, that guarantees this, a fellowship that guarantees that we can reach a spiritual consciousness and a connection to help other people and save lives. And this is a gift. This is a gift that we have, and it's guaranteed to us through a lot of the varying fellowships that we attend. No amount of money can buy it, and our planet is in desperate need of it right now. The earth that we live in, the people that we interact in our society, is in desperate need of this, this sense of consciousness and awakeness and enlightenment with how recovery is possible. This is not about dying. This is about living. And I think that, in and of itself, is the message that we all have got to carry. Whether you're hearing the music or not, it's real, and it happens, and we're doing it. I think it's our responsibility as people that are in this room today, and I think one day this event may have to be held in the Coliseum eventually. I'm very excited to be here, to be in such great company of people that really want to affect the lives of others in a positive way. And know that each and every one of you has changed our life, my wife and mine, in a way that brings me to tears. And I'm just excited to be here. I'm very grateful for all those that are getting awards and for the great work that's being done in and around this city, but the state. And I'm very grateful for, just the meal that we share tonight and how far the McShin Foundation has come and what John's done in my life. And, I too was thinking about how we moved out of that little office. And there was like me, you, John Ruger, Terry Kenham, and Chick. And we had the first meeting at Hatcher. And it was down in the basement, and paint was peeling off the walls. And all they had, and we're all pretty tall men, all they had were those little chairs for preschoolers. I think John got a pizza, and we're sitting there, and I'm just like, man, what in the world have I gotten myself into? But not to include myself in that magical moment, but that's what it takes. Just a group of folks that have been there and done that have empathy within their souls, and really want to make a conscious decision to help each other out and affect the lives of those that are around us. So thank you for letting me talk tonight. I mean, the story how I got up here to talk, I did share that with you in private, but one of John's infamous backdoor deals. But I'm very grateful to be here. My life has been magnificently changed as a result of the recovering community, and I want to thank you. Thanks for giving me your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Daniel ain't no gangster criminal, all right? The felony came from a fire, trash can fire, BMI, to throw a piece of broccoli. So that's how that got there. When I heard the story, I thought, you got to be kidding. Nobody gets convicted of that. But he went right on his friend. That's why he really got it. So there's a real honor behind this thing. He's the nicest one of those I've ever met. But anyway, well, now you got me. I don't want to say fella no more. I mean, it's horrible, man. I mean, you know, the name don't fit you, you know. And they don't fit a lot of us, actually. But I started a lot of fires too back in the day, you know. So technically, I should be a fella. I ran. Anyway, we honestly gonna come up here. We believe we're gonna give out a few awards, and when we give out the awards, normally what we do, we give out a group of awards, and they sit down, and we give out the big award. But in between, we bring our board up. But we bring the board up when we give out the award, don't we? So the board members, please come up front here for a minute. Come on. We make them go through the gauntlet when we give you the awards. This is a ritual of ours. If you ever been to an NA meeting up on Church Hill, this is how to give out the key tag. You gotta go through the gauntlet. While they're working their way up here, I'd like to remind y'all how important it is to tie to the board every year. And people are counting on it. And that was funny. Y'all supposed to laugh when I said that. You call them out. You'll have to come up with it. They call your name. Come up the line so everybody can congratulate.
Then we'll take a picture right here.
We'll take a picture.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Honesty Liller. I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is I haven't used any type of substance for almost 9 years now. May 27th of 2007 is the day, actually, it's my first day in recovery. I came to McShin on May 28th of 2007, and I had never left. I had nothing. And I just want to touch on something like how our stories are powerful and how this recovery movement works. I had nothing, a couple garbage bags of clothes, some photo albums, and a Jeep on a car title loan. And John and Carol took me in. My mama moved John, and Daniel here and his wife were a huge part of my early recovery, and they are still my friends today. Daniel took a chance on me. I had a daughter in active addiction, and she was 5 years old when I got into recovery. One of my first job was to work for Daniel and his small business back then. Now it's huge and booming. But I just want to say, like, what we do in recovery and how we work. I couldn't even take care of my own child, and I didn't have her, and they entrusted me with their 1-year-old son. So thank you for that. And then we built a relationship. Now my friends got all these kids and everything now. So just saying, like, you know, give yourself a break if you're new into recovery. We all started somewhere. I had nothing when I came to McShin, and now my life is pretty amazing, to be honest with you. So I am the CEO of the McShin Foundation. That is a very true story. His wife gave me that title, and I wear it very, very proudly. I am his work wife. It takes a village. So tonight we just have some special awards, and then we'll get to our big award. But I just wanted to touch on a couple things for each individual. So every year we have these community awards, staff awards, volunteer awards. So if I call your name, just come up and get your award, and come on down the line, and we'll stop and take a pic. This is Francis. Stand up, Francis, real quick. Dapper Francis. So he's our picture taker, and pretty much best dressed too, so thank you. Okay, so the first award is our Staff of the Year. You know, working at McShin, I've been there 8.5 years working there. It's a tough job every day of emotions, families, people crying, all the overdoses and everything that we've been going through. And this individual who came through our program, McShin, we're really big on giving our people jobs. Just to give, a lot of our felons, we just want to give people the opportunity to work in our community. So this individual came in straight from jail, and he lived in our house, and we saw great things in him when he was in the housing program. So we started working him, and he's been there for almost 3 years now. He works our weekend. He's a barber, so his whole barber shop, I try to take my son in there, it's full of recovering people, and I'm impatient, so I just sit for a minute and go somewhere else. But this person, not only does McShin give me the opportunity to run a fabulous organization that saved me, but to become people's friends. And I can truly tell you, this individual is one of my friends, and my kids adore him, my husband's best friends, and we call him Butta because the first time was our Bluegrass Festival. He dropped the cooler twice as a nervous newcomer, and my son couldn't say butter, so he called him Butterfingers. So this, and the staff of the year is Matthew Cunningham. So we have some community service awards, and these two ladies are 100% two of the most amazing mommies I've ever met in my entire life. So us addicts and individuals that are struggling with addiction, we affect so many people around us, and we affect the people closest to us. So these family members have joined to McShin a couple years ago and developed a family council. So we have a McShin family council. These mommies and daddies are hitting the floors, going to PTAs, doing their own town hall meetings. Like, they are sick of kids dying, and their children are doing amazing in recovery. And also, unfortunate, what comes with the disease of addiction is death. And with that, Marta is one of our recipients, Marta LaFleur. She has been one of the most toughest chicks I have met in a lifetime. She don't take no for an answer, and that's what I love about her. And she donated $26,000 to McShin, to the Brenna Scholarship Fund. So we have a scholarship that, like myself, couldn't afford McShin. So yes, we have $1.2 million revenue, but a lot of that is we give away over $200,000 a year, and that just keep climbing with all the programs that we get to keep building because of people like you. So Marta, and then we have Heidi Ellis, her son. Ben Jack, stand up. That's her son. He has grown in his recovery for sure, and Heidi has been there every moment and every second of that recovery journey. So she's able to help family members in our community and all around, talk about the disease of addiction and recovery and what recovery really is and how to help that child. So you ladies, come on up and get your award. And if you're a family member here, where's Debbie? Right here. Oh, that's right. So if you're a family member, you would like to join our family council, see one of these lovely ladies. We would love for that council to grow so we can touch even more people and help even more a lot of people. He is obsessed with this stuff. Okay, the next award is Volunteer of the Year. So this gentleman has, we have jail programs our Pamunkey jail, Hanover jail. He volunteers there every Friday, and not just that, he brings us tons of food. He volunteers at all of our events. Our golf tournament, real quick, May 20th, he will be on the hole giving away a trophy if you get a hole in one, correct? So Braxton's a huge part of our life and a huge part of the recovery movement. He don't take no for an answer either. And he has definitely been an amazing man in our life and to our participants in our program. Braxton also, unfortunately, lost his son as well, and that made him even fight and get stronger and stronger and be able to save more lives and be able to be a huge advocate for this recovery movement. And you're an amazing individual, and we love you. Come get your award. So we like to recognize first, any alumni stand up in general, any alumni in the room? Thank you. Yeah, y'all are alumni boys.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, you beat up, man.
So we have 2 Alumni of the Year awards. One of them, the young lady, is now we actually hired her, so she works at McShin on the weekends. The need is there. She is a strong woman in recovery. She went through our program, and she's doing amazing things in her life. In the recovery community, she's always on call to help a woman out on all hours of the day, chasing people down the road, at gas stations, all kinds of stuff. We do what we got to do to save lives. So with that, I give you Tracy Robertson. The next award, this young man dived right in. He came into McShin. He's an alumni of our program and doing amazing things with his life. Dived right in, will show up for someone, you know, in early recovery and show up all of our events, helps us with our events, set up, clean up. And still his life today is growing and growing, and I know his family is here, and I know his daddy just adores him, supports us, and comes to everything because his son is so amazing. And with that, John Brookins. So we have a couple special awards as well, and this year we have a Trailblazer Award. So this individual came through our program, detoxed on a train, came to McShin. Definitely was a rough situation when he first got here, which most of us, you know, deal with. But you know, detoxing off of opiates, especially cold turkey, is a tough thing to do, especially on a train with strangers. I just don't even know how he did it, but. This individual, fortunately, I get to work with him every day. He is one of literally my right-hand men. We have so much fun at work. Like, we have to have fun in recovery. Like, what we deal with every single day is heartbreaking sometimes, and it's to be able to work with someone and they've grown so much so quick in their recovery. He is the director of our youth and collegiate programming, and what that means is now at McShin we have a youth program, and the individuals, we've got, the youngest is 14 years old, and they come and they do their schoolwork at McShin during the day along with the peer recovery support services. Then we have an after school program for teenagers that have a safe place for them to go, and it started with an idea, the need was there, and we're getting bigger and bigger with that. So if you know a teenager that needs help, please let us know as well. And he is one of the most motivated, fast-paced individuals we've had at McShin. He is an amazing person, and Trailblazer Award is Stanislav Novitsky. And our last community award is like I was saying about the jail program that we have in Pamunkey. The need was there for the female side. You know, what we're seeing is there's a lot of males incarcerated, but we do not forget about the females at the McShin Foundation. I promise you that. So, with that, we have an individual's been volunteering her time. She's not even paid staff. She goes in because she knows the need is there, and she fights for women especially, and women with the substance use disorder. So thank you for all the hard work that you're doing at no cost at all for McShin, and she's doing it because this is what the recovery community does. We help individuals that need the help. And with the Rising Star Award is Denise Thomas Brown. Okay. It is not over there. So, I need that. Okay, so the last award, I personally, so how I met Attorney General Mark Herring was speaking at an event 2.5 years ago in Roanoke. I was asked to speak on the recovery piece. My last 9 years of my 14-year addiction was heroin and opiates. And that's what the summit was about the epidemic that was going on or beginning, the lights finally shedding onto that. And I was asked to speak on a panel with two mommies that lost their children to the disease of addiction. And I was like, okay, sure, you know, I was like, oh, I feel a little bit important. I'm going to be on this thing, you know, this panel. And from that built an amazing relationship from just sharing my story of recovery, from being someone from active addiction to what my life is today, to be able to speak in front of lots of policymakers and police officers and people. And, you know, I never thought coming to McShin that I'd ever have a voice that I do, or the movement that would ever be this big. I just wanted to detox and roll. And I just ended up staying. And John and Carol have instilled in me the advocacy piece that is in my heart, to be that face, to be that voice, to tell my story wherever I can. Because recovery changes lives and gives you the life that God put you here on this earth to live. And with that, the AG has a long list of his bio. I'm not going to sit here for 30 minutes saying that. It's in your program. But one huge thing he did is Brittany here is amazing, and me and her developed a relationship. And Heroin: The Hardest Hit is a documentary about heroin, substance use, and recovery. There's a link on the program. It's on our website too. And it was just cool to me when they called me and they're like, hey, you want to be in this movie about heroin? I was like, yeah. I mean, I don't have to play like I'm shooting over anything, right? But it was it's a huge, and you guys are still traveling all over, showing like, you know, and he deals with the mommies and the daddies that are losing their kids, and to see someone stick up for us is a huge thing in our world, and you haven't stopped. I mean, the calls, the email, everything keeps going, and that's important because I've done a lot of policy work throughout the years, and some of them speak up here on this panel and, you know, make promises and stuff, and to be honest, they just kind of go away. But you have not. You're a huge fighter for this opiate epidemic and all substance use disorders, and you are a little fighter too. She's right with you. So that. How many times? Hey, life is awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got a lot to say. So well, I'm really glad to be here with you all tonight, and thank you for letting me share in tonight's celebration. And you know, I'm humbled to receive the Bronze Key Award. But I also know that there are a lot of folks in this room whose contribution to substance use disorder prevention and treatment are all worthy of recognition. And I also have to acknowledge, as honestly mentioned, I'm accepting the award really on behalf of a great team at the Attorney General's office, who have worked tirelessly to help address the opioid epidemic that we're seeing, not just in Virginia, but all up and down the East Coast and the Midwest and other states as well. And the many families and advocates who've worked with us on this. And Brittany has done just an amazing amount of work, both with legislation and with documentary. And she's very What I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about how I got involved in this fight to begin with, and what we're doing in the Attorney General's office to help combat the problem and get it turned around, and also some observations that I've learned along the way and what the work has meant to me. I got my start in politics at the local level. So I was a county supervisor and a town attorney for a small town, so my orientation is very much community focused and community oriented. And so when I was a newly minted Attorney General, had been inaugurated a few weeks earlier, I knew I had this unique relationship as the Attorney General with law enforcement, and that there were a lot of tools at my disposal to address problems in the public safety area. So one of the first things I did back in early 2014 was to go on a statewide public safety tour. We met with local law enforcement, because I wanted to hear directly from them what they were hearing in their communities. We had 22 meetings in 2 weeks. We traveled like 2,500 miles. There were 60 different agencies were represented. And at 3/4 of those meetings, I heard that heroin and prescription drugs were devastating, that they were seeing their communities devastated, and that they were seeing numbers like they had never seen before. That it was happening in places where they had never seen it, and to people who had never seen it either. Young people in the suburbs, older folks in rural areas, middle-aged women in urban areas, white, black, Latino, Asian, didn't matter. Every geographic, socioeconomic, and demographic line was being crossed, and it was spiraling out of control. And it was a problem that I had heard a little bit about, but it was mostly anecdotally, and I'm fortunate that my family hasn't been touched by addiction in the way that so many of you all have. And so it was really hearing the local perspective from local law enforcement who told me how much was devastating their communities. And so I looked into it a little bit more, and I found that the data supported what we were hearing in terms of the rise and spike in heroin and prescription opioid deaths. Every indicator we could find was going up, whether it was measured by cases that were handled at the state lab, or whether it was heroin overdose deaths, or prescription opioid deaths. And we realized that there really was a crisis, and it was spiraling out of control. And unless we got in front of it, or jumped in front of it and started putting everything we had into it, it was going to continue to get worse and worse, and more families were going to be broken by the loss of a loved one. And I just felt that I could not sit by and watch another mom or dad
lose a child to these dangerous drugs. And so many have lost friends, brothers and sisters, and family members. So we started to look at what we could do. We started looking at what some of the other states had done, because Virginia is certainly not the only state, as I mentioned. We looked at what communities here in the Commonwealth were doing and around the country. And we came up with a comprehensive approach of things that we could do out of the Attorney General's office to help address the opioid addiction and save lives. And it is truly comprehensive, because even in those initial conversations with law enforcement, they were telling me, this isn't a problem that we are going to be able to arrest our way out of, that is never going to fix the problem, that we need treatment and prevention and education resources, and we need somewhere for these folks to turn to for treatment and support. And so the strategy that we came up with includes every tool we have at our disposal: prevention, education, treatment, alongside of enforcement against dealers and traffickers and those who profit off of addiction. And it also recognizes that in many cases this is a problem that has its roots in the medicine cabinet, not in the streets, and that the medical community has to be a part of the solution. So the first thing we did was the summit, and that's where we were bringing together law enforcement, judges, public health professionals, families who have been affected, more from every corner of the Commonwealth, to start talking about what folks were seeing, what was working, what we needed to do more of. And even then, it was an approach that integrated law enforcement, community resources, and healthcare. And one of our panels featured parents who had lost a child to overdose and individuals in recovery, one of whom was Honesty. It was the first time I met her. She shared her incredible story, and that was the start of what has been a really good relationship with the McShin Foundation. Since then, it has grown into visits to group sessions, visits to Recovery Fest, and you all have taught me so much about how addiction and substance use disorders can affect folks from all walks of life, and how important it is to have that community support. We also really honed in on education and prevention efforts targeted especially at young people. We added a heroin and prescription drug module to our Virginia Rules program. If you don't know about Virginia Rules, it is ostensibly it's a legal education program written by lawyers in our office for sort of late middle school grades, early high school grades, to teach them about the laws in Virginia. But it's, of course, a lot more than that. It's also really designed to help them learn how to make good decisions as they're growing up, and to learn about drugs like heroin and prescription opioids, because it's really, at that age where they need to understand it better. We also created a documentary called Heroin, the Hardest Hit. It features a lot of our friends from McShin, like Honesty and Stas and Dave and Brandy and John and Dr. Thompson and a lot of others. What we wanted to do was really to give people a chance to tell their story to other Virginians. And we didn't want to just have some voice of authority saying drugs were bad. We knew that that was a message for young people that was not going to work. Instead, we wanted people just to tell their stories. And so you hear from Honesty and Stas and others about how far off the track their lives had gotten before they found treatment and a recovery plan that worked for them. And you also hear from friends and family members of some of the folks who unfortunately lost the fight. If you've seen the documentary, you meet Caitlin Weems and her mother Carolyn. Caitlin was a 21-year-old mother of what seemed was a perfect family in Virginia Beach. She was an incredible soccer player, but after some back and some dental injuries, she went on opioids as a teenager, and they just slowly consumed her life. She overdosed and died in a sober living house and left behind a beautiful baby who was being raised by her grandparents. And I've heard so many stories like that. And I imagine a lot of you out there have heard a lot of those stories. And I can tell just by a lot of nodding heads that you have. As a parent myself, my wife and I have 2 children. And our daughter is 23 and our son is 19. And our daughter would have been the same age as Carolyn's daughter, Caitlin. And the fall can be so fast and so severe. And like every parent, not a moment goes by when I don't worry about them. And so that's really why we've made the film. It's a centerpiece of our education and prevention efforts. And if any of you are interested, it's available online at hardesthitva.com. And it's online to watch. It's also, you can watch it through our Attorney General website. You can get DVDs. We're continuing to do screenings around the state. And we're doing everything we can to get that out because we think it's a really important tool. We also put together a bipartisan package of legislation to help address the problem and save lives, and I'm happy to report that they were passed by a wide margin with bipartisan support. And I don't have to tell you about politics. I mean, I live it every day, but I also share a lot of the frustrations that everybody else does about politics and partisanship on this issue. On heroin and prescription opioids, it was bipartisan. Everybody was working together, and it was really nice to see that. The final product, I think, has been made a lot better because of the input that we've gotten from stakeholders and folks like you all, too. In that, we worked to make sure that naloxone was available to all first responders in the state, because during an overdose, seconds matter. And quickly administering naloxone can be the difference between life and death. We also got a Good Samaritan provision passed to encourage people to report an overdose in progress. When a life is on the line, we can sort out the legal niceties and consequences later, but what we need is for those who are in the presence of that person having an overdose to call for help and know that they can save their friend's life or their relative's life without fear of ending up in jail themselves. And we are a law enforcement agency, and enforcement certainly has a role in all this. And what we have done is taken an unprecedented step to go after dealers and traffickers, those who are profiting off addiction and continue to pursue actions against doctors who divert or overprescribe or otherwise make prescriptions available out on the street. In the last year and a half, we have worked with local and federal partners to prosecute more than 28 cases against dealers and traffickers involving more than 95 kilograms of heroin. That's approximately 238,000 daily doses with an estimated street value of more than $19 million. So we are about 2 years into this, and I am encouraged by the infrastructure that we have been putting in place and the attention and visibility that we are putting to the problem. And it's also good to feel a broader recognition of the problem from folks all across the Commonwealth, especially prescribers and others in the medical community who really need to be in this game. The states that we've spoken to who have been facing the kind of heroin problem and prescription opioid problem that Virginia has, but for a longer time period, have said that for those numbers to come down, it really takes a number of years for our efforts to really become integrated into the communities and bear results. But I am committed to doing everything that I can with as much time as I have in office to stand with you on this. And along the way, the thing that has really kept me so committed to this fight, and the thing that has kept me going, and the thing that it makes me feel the most grateful, is for everything that you're doing, and for people just like you all around the state. What started as something that I felt I needed to do as Attorney General has really become much more personal and more powerful for me. Every day, every single day, as we are thinking about and working on this problem, I think to myself, I don't want another parent to have to bury a child or another child to lose a parent to these dangerous drugs. And I have met so many parents, siblings who have shared with me just who and what they lost to addiction. And you know what? Every single time
I see two things. First, they speak so glowingly of the loved one that they lost, about how much pride they have, about a wonderful person they were, and the things that they could become if they had been able to shake their addiction. The second thing they always say to me is, they never thought this could happen to anyone in their family. It can happen to any of us. And so many families, including many here tonight, have taken that tragedy, that unimaginable loss and heartbreak, and turned it into resolve and become active in the fight against addiction because they don't want another family to go through what they've gone through. And it never gets easier. But it is so important that we talk about this problem and that we share the stories and the lives of the people we're losing. And every Virginian needs to understand the power that this disease and the drugs that we're talking about have, and get in the fight in their own way, whatever speaks to their heart. Even if it is just a conversation with a child, or stepping in with a friend before a problem escalates. Every single person has a role to play in turning this problem around. And finally tonight, I just want to share one last thought about the most powerful resource that we can bring to the fight, and that is hope. I can't even begin to imagine what it must feel like to wake up in the morning, to feel ashamed because you feel powerless over an addiction that you hate, or what it must feel like to wake up and feel like your child or your spouse, the person you love most in the world, is suffering, and you don't know where to turn. And so often, whether it's shame or stigma or fear, forces families and those with substance use disorders to suffer in silence. But we cannot and will not let ourselves become hopeless or discouraged. We have to make sure that people struggling know that you can beat addiction. And there is life after addiction, and there is hope in recovery. And that's what people like Honesty and many of you have taught me. I've heard Honesty's story so many times, probably because I've watched our documentary 100 times myself. But she'll be the first one to tell you what she went through and what a difficult time it was. And she worked hard to move beyond it. And she works hard every single day to make sure she never goes back to that place. And now she's built a wonderful life with a beautiful family, and she's part of an incredible family and community at McShin. And there are others at McShin and around the Commonwealth. And we have to make sure that their stories are told, because the fact is, good people struggle with addiction too. When I look out at this room, I don't see bad people. I see people with big hearts who have been touched by a disease that could affect any one of us. So I see people who are doing the absolute best they can to deal with the disease, and with drugs that are very, very powerful. I see people who deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, and who should find a community of support when they show the courage. They show the courage to ask for help. I know that's what so many people find at McShin, and I'm honored that you all have welcomed me in and allowed me in my own small way to be a part of that community of support as well. So thank you all very much.
Just for record keeping, times was $2, but you take the wrapper off, it's $1. We're almost done, folks. We are accustomed at this banquet every year. The Mint in McShin.
2 seconds.
2 seconds.
I just want to personally thank, I've been at McShin for 100 years, it feels, and we finally have an events coordinator at McShin. So Alden, please stand up. Easier on a day-to-day basis, and she is not in recovery. It's one of the first people we've ever hired that is not in recovery. She loves us so much. She was our summer intern last summer. She came to me and John a few months ago and asked for a job, and I was like, I got a perfect position for you. So thank you very much, and the ladies from Hope House for helping us set up, and the gentlemen from McShin. Our people, we train them as soon as they get here, set up, clean up events, and teach them how to be responsible. So thank you very much.
All is not in recovery yet. Make that clear. And we are probably the number one home dealers in Virginia, in the McShin Foundation. But one thing the recovery people never lose sight of, every one of us has a relapse in us. But we don't all have a recovery left, so we don't ever want to forget that. But some of y'all don't know where the name McShin comes from. My name's John Shinholster, and my wife, the other co-founder, is Carol McDade. So the McShin is going to come say the final words for tonight before we end. And she does a lot of hard work up in Washington. And right now she is fighting one of the hardest ground battles of all time to try to get some recovery support service funding down to the state. And it's an ugly battle, it's a bloodbath up there. And this woman is on the front line every single day. So, honey.
My name is Carol McDade, and I'm a woman in long-term recovery. And for me, that means I'm alcohol and drug-free for over 18 years. And my recovery has allowed me to become a wife, a mother, and a recovery advocate, standing proudly and humbly before you tonight. You know, what John didn't mention is the first few years that we did this banquet, you know John is a colorful man, right? That's probably something that's not missed by anyone. And I used to come up here and sort of clean up whatever needed to be cleaned up that John either forgot to say or shouldn't have said. And you know, it really is true. John, in honesty, and the incredible team of McShin people do the hard work. I just support them in their effort. I try to help by raising a little money and engaging people in our community also in what's going on with the recovery movement and what we're doing in Washington to try to get help. But there's two things I wanted to leave you with tonight, and I'm so proud of John and Honesty and their team because they really, they value this and they're not willing to give up, even though many people think it's a hill too steep to climb. One of the fastest ways that we could reduce the death and overdose rate in our community, in our state, in our country, is to provide same-day services upon request for people. Many who in the formal treatment community, and they are our colleagues and contemporaries, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with them. They have regulations and they have bureaucracies to deal with that make it very, very difficult for them. And a lack of funding, both from state and federal, that make resources scarce. But it's probably not a surprise to any of the parents in this community that there's long waiting lists in Virginia to get help. Oftentimes we lose people while they're on that list. And organizations like McShin, and we certainly are not the only recovery community organization in Virginia. John likes to say we're the best, but I just want you to know we're not the only one. The Healing Place and many of our other community-based partners do a fabulous job as well. But we are the safety net for our community when these long waiting lists, through no fault of their own in some instances, for either public or private sector beds for residential addiction are not available. And we provide that safety net. And people, I'm so proud of this, people can walk in the doors at McShin at 2300 Dumbarton Road and they can get same-day services. And we really want that to be able to spread. Obviously, it takes resources to do that. And I'm amazed, I always tell people, like, how do y'all fund McShin, Carol? And I'm kind of like, it's like a fishes in a loaves thing. I would love to tell you I'm this fabulous fundraiser. It's not so. And John and Honesty pull out miracles to keep the place running well, in the black, and are really an incredible resource in our community, if I do say so myself. But it does take resources. And one of the things I'd leave you with tonight, for those of you who are longstanding community members, is the philanthropic community has not embraced this illness. I was pleased to be able to serve on a committee that threw a huge concert this October in Washington, D.C. We had musicians like Steven Tyler and The Fray and Goo Goo Dolls and Sheryl Crow, all these top acts, right? And we could not get a single corporation in America to put their name by the word addiction. And the answer that they told us, we'll give you behind the scenes stuff, we'll donate this, we'll donate that, we'll give you time on our channel for public service announcements, but we just don't want our logo, we don't want our brand next to the word addiction. Because the name of the organization that held this concert was called Facing Addiction. And the same goes for the McShin Foundation and other philanthropies in this community. They're a little hesitant to really support our organization and many others like us. They're a little bit better with the faith-based communities that are strictly a faith-based approach and not using some of the other 12-step approaches that we use at McShin. And that's not a poor, pitiful us thing. I want you to know that this is a problem in our community, that the philanthropic community, we are stigmatized and maybe not a safe bet yet. So those of you who have those relationships and those contacts, if you could talk up that we are a reliable, gift place that you can house gifts, whether it's through the community foundation or direct, please spread the word that we are a reliable organization that will make incredible miracle happens with the gifts that they give. So thank you very much for coming and good night.